Hey there, Professor Fields here. AJ 115, Community and Human Relations. We're into Chapter 10. We're talking about terrorism, homeland security, and disaster preparedness. This is the module learning outcome number 10.6, where we discuss key issues associated with law enforcement and emergency services, responding to terrorism, and protecting the homeland security. Tips to detect terrorist behavior. As you saw on the very first slide of this whole module, you never know who the terrorist is. All three of these people here are terrorists: Bin Laden, Timothy McVeigh, and Sarnoff. Sarnoff with the Boston bombing, Timothy McVeigh in the Oklahoma City bombing, and most people know who Bin Laden are. So you need to analyze and utilize your intelligence sources and gather information from relationships that you've built in the community. And the time to build those relationships is now, not later on. Build those relationships beforehand through community meetings, COPS programs. We've discussed that in earlier chapters. Problem-oriented policing programs, and we'll discuss a lot of these in later chapters also. But build those relationships in the communities before you need them. Observe and interpret street-level behavior. As police officers, they look at everyday behaviors and see it in a different way sometimes. This is an example here. This is a pickup truck. It's loaded down with fertilizer and some diesel fuel. For those of you who know history, you know that's exactly what blew up the Oklahoma Trade Center. Now, this person is likely up to doing something normal with that stuff, like fertilizing his farmland, not blowing things up. But if you have reason to talk to that person, see what they're up to, see if they understand what they have in their truck, and see if maybe they're on the watch list if somebody's contacted them before, and share your information with the State Threat Assessment Center. We discussed that in an earlier part of this module. Understand what's going on around you. Be a due diligence. This is the Times Square bombing. Suspect that was they disarmed the vehicle beforehand because of some very alert citizens and police looked at this thing and said, "Hey, something's up." Do what's called a threat assessment. We're going to actually do that later on in this module. We're going to do a threat assessment for our community, looking at the different things. But one of the things you want to do on a threat assessment is look at businesses that have the potential to be targets of terrorist activities and protests. Nuclear facilities. This happens to be a picture of the nuclear facilities from The Simpsons. But we have those in our community. In Southern California here, we have power plants, we have refineries, we have all kinds of things like that. Public buildings and venues, LA Coliseum, huge amount of people, huge amount of potential for something to go wrong. Shopping malls, Dodger Stadium, large parks, things like that. The beaches. Beaches are crowded during the summer here in Southern California. Historical targets. We have like the Wiesenthal Museum of Tolerance on the west side. Churches, synagogues. We have the big Catholic cathedral downtown Los Angeles right next to the freeway. Take a look at those. Infrastructure systems. We have in Los Angeles one of the largest freeway systems in the world. I actually did my master's thesis on the LA freeway system, one of the largest in the world. Say you were to take out the 405 interchange at Redondo Beach Boulevard, about a mile from the campus here. What kind of economic and damage to society could you do by doing that? So take a look at those things, and if you see a pickup truck or a box truck parked under that freeway overcrossing, make an effort to get out and take a look at it. The airports, things like that. Understand that sometimes some groups may target religious organizations, whether it be a synagogue during the holy days or a Christian church during the high holy days, the Muslim during Ramadan. So when you're considering your threats, consider holidays and other important events surrounding religious holidays. When it comes to terrorism prevention, remember that some groups get targeted quite often. This is a picture of a Sikh. And remember we talked about Sikhs back in chapter, I think it was 8 or so, where we talked about Asian in the Asian region down there, where Sikhs are quite often confused with Muslims by ignorant people. So make sure that you reach out to communities and let them know they're protected and they're not targeted. When it comes to training, you want to find that you have language expertise within your department. If you're a large department like Los Angeles Police Department, you're likely to have a lot of different languages spoken by your officers or other personnel, communications operators, even civilian personnel. But there's also bilingual communication services that you have within a police department, and also partner with the community so you can get people out there with a language expertise. I'll talk about that in the next slide. Actually, the slide after that. Intelligence gathering, back to partnering with the community. Make sure you communicate with this community. There we go. The slide about multicultural media. Reach out to the Spanish-speaking television stations, the Korean television stations. There's 82 different languages spoken in the region within 10 miles of the campus here in Southern California. Some final tips: build those relationships before you need them. Profile behaviors, not just looks of people, because you think they look like a terrorist. Like I said, it's hard to pick out a terrorist out of the crowd sometimes. Conduct a threat assessment. Look at the areas, the hard targets in your area, such as airports, refineries, transportation infrastructure, planes, trains, automobiles, and respond in a fair and impartial manner to the threats of Homeland Security. Now let's move on to the next part of our lesson for this week. We're going to move on to doing the threat assessment.